Oh yeah, let's do it. Can I have a spoon, Dad? Like a larger spoon? And can I see the small red curry thing too, and a very small spoon for that?
You got it.
Dope. Like I really love Maine in a lot of ways. I feel by far the most calm when I'm in Maine, and I really appreciate, even though I love like when I perform hip hop and when I write hip hop, I'm obsessed with the energy. I can be a very energetic person, and I feel that when I do hip hop, I am being genuine, and that's just a part of me. And I talk extremely fast, and I've always had this kind of frenetic energy about me. I think in some ways, and and unleashing that feels really good. It feels really wonderful. But on the flip side, I really like just being quiet and kind of just enjoying myself in a quiet place. Smell the fire.
This, amazingly enough, used to heat our entire house until we moved it up here. That's probably enough.
I've been writing. I started writing hip hop music in my junior year of high school. And when I got to college, I began as well kind of really reevaluating the place that I grew up. And I really began to think a lot more critically about how racist the place I grew up was. And I became really embarrassed and very kind of self-critical.
These are guys of the name D-Money, Smoothie, Shifty, these type of guys that come from Connecticut, New York. They come up here, they sell their heroin, then they go back home. Incidentally, half the time they impregnate a young white girl before they leave, which is a real sad thing, because then we have another issue that we got to deal with down the road. I'm not going to deny or apologize for that. That's who I am.
I have a lot of students who understand race only by what they've seen on television and in the movies. And so they have stereotypes and assumptions about race that they have no way of knowing the degree to which they might be based in truth, because they live here and they have no experience with people of color at all. And so they make assumptions.
Especially everyone's relationship to hip-hop music, which all my friends really loved, but also this very kind of strange, mocking relationship with, because it didn't seem like a real thing. Again, it was still kind of this hypothetical, virtual thing, because it was totally mediated by the media and especially the internet. When trying to educate kids about racism, figuring out ways to get them to speak their mind, and the balance between them being incredibly offensive, but also trying to teach them at the same time is very difficult, obviously, because, especially coming from rural Maine, obviously a lot of kids were really great, but even the really bright kids like myself, even, I think I'm bright, even the kids who were very open-minded still had incredibly racist thoughts.
Yeah.
We was excited to work with Eric because of the fact that he doesn't come from the same backgrounds we come from, and he still had a good understanding of what to do in hip hop, and that's what really attracted me to Eric, was the fact that he was coming into something that he pretty much didn't know anything about, but was willing to learn in an open way and not just, force himself in and anything like that, So a good way to explain it is just, we go through a lot every single day of our lives. We go through a lot every single day of our lives, right? We're mostly people that live with our backs against the wall because we don't have as many opportunities, or nobody just cares to give us any opportunities.
Hip hop is a social movement. I don't really think social movements and hip hop are two different things. I think it is a social movement. It's like the new age civil rights movement in a lot of ways. My name's Angel Newman. People know me as Medusa Black, and we're at AS220 Youth. And the mission of AS220 Youth is to use hip hop in arts to empower young people to create social change.
I mean, this is a summer in which nationwide young people are grappling with these realities about police departments and issues of race in this country. And this art form makes it easier to talk about things like that. It makes it easier to understand things like that. And quite honestly, it makes it easier for people who don't think they fit into a setting like this to be more comfortable.
In order for someone to come into hip hop and understand all that, it's a, let's just say it's not a process of 2 years. It takes a long time to learn everything, you know what I mean? So if somebody wants to come into hip hop, all I can say is that you have to come in open-hearted and don't come in with no agenda and don't come in with no ideas and don't come in with anything.
Anytime you're coming to a culture and you wanted to like participate and learn about it, I think there's just a certain level of awareness and education that has to happen first. So I think as long as educators are true to themselves about like how they found hip hop, what it's done for them, and then are teaching their students that like, look, like this is a voice for people who have been oppressed, or it's a voice for anyone who feels like they're going through something, and this is the history behind it. I think the problem that I have is when educators try to like strip hip hop from social issues, and they strip it from its history, and they kind of just use it to trick kids into learning like math. You know, like that's something that feels a little icky.
Knowing history just helps you understand it better. It doesn't like take away from you doing the art. Like if anything, it just makes you like, oh, I understand the art now. Like damn, I'm gonna put that much more love into it.
You learn a lot about the history of not only hip hop itself, but of Black Power and like how hip hop is a source of hope and how it's part of the culture, and learning about like how to do hip hop without really appropriating culture. If you take the class for long enough, you get performance opportunities, and you can record and learn all this other stuff. So it's got like really both sides that you don't see a lot.
It's 10 a.m. on a Thursday morning. Down the road, I see it, me and myself exploring. White men in America never be choring. Liquor from a few long neck bottle pouring.
In my opinion, if you're going to do, the art forms of peoples who your culture has oppressed, you have a moral responsibility to, take very seriously the words and opinions of that culture.
See the reaction the first time that Eric danced, like Sideshow went up, and then Eric went up. And Sideshow kills it. He's like the most talented dude, just in general, especially at breakdancing though. And he goes up, he's like doing headstands and backflips, and Eric goes out like, Eric's good at dancing, but he's like not like impressively good. Right. And he goes out there and it's like, and
this is not
everybody just sort of like.
I like Eric's role in hip hop, or like in general, because it's very genuine, and like he's always apologetic, and like in a way that's like he's like, yo, I realize I'm white, and like that I'm coming into hip hop and it's mainly like a Black and Latino thing, but like his whole point is that he wants to help teach other white kids about how they're privileged and like why them coming into hip hop is it's kind of sacred. It's like, yo,
you know what I mean? Like our doors are always open to everybody.
Well, one thing I think is hip hop is universal, so it is for everybody. It would actually be un-hip hop to say that it's only for a certain group of people.
They just accept anybody. They just like the music, they like the feels, they like hip hop.
The hip hop curriculum here, I'm so excited we have it, and I'm excited because of the person who's leading it. Eric deeply appreciates the cultural aspect of hip hop, the historic aspect of hip hop. He's not coming at it as the expert. He makes such an effort, and I think he's pretty successful in explaining cultural appropriation to kids, in explaining how hip hop has a place in urban culture, in Black culture, in Black history, and it's something you can certainly appreciate and learn and celebrate, but it's not something you can own.
Growing up in South Prov, it's more like the issues are like, oh yo, I fought this person yesterday. You know what I mean? Like it's more like it's a little serious. Oh, I fought this person yesterday, and their cousins are gonna come this way to like fight us, and then I gotta call my cousins to like, you know what I mean? Like crazy shit like that. You know what I mean? And like it can get more serious. So it's like seeing those different worlds. It's like it's weird because like sometimes like I want to like get mad at the kids, or be like, yo, like you guys don't understand that like things are more serious than like what you guys think they are. But can't get mad at them because it's like,
I think they don't really understand institutionalized racism. Like, I think they really don't understand that that's a real thing that exists, and that in many, many cases it's a subconscious thing that it is important to become aware of and to change in oneself. And if you've been thinking this way for a really long time, and if your parents and your family and everyone you know thinks this way, and then all of a sudden you articulate something and someone says, well, that's not entirely true. Like, what about this? And then you think, oh, but they have all this conditioning of thinking a certain way.
Going to a place, performing, where I'm the only white person there besides like Eric if he's there, or like these guys, it's like, it's sort of sobering.
And like, I've had students talk to me about how they're literally scared to go to the South Side when they've never actually been on the South Side. But, you know, even in a localized way, there are these kind of like imagined, you know, otherings in their own city, and it's like a quarter of a mile away.
Up until like I was like 18, I never even went to the East Side. And that sounds really, because Providence is fucking yay big, you know what I mean? But up until 18, I never went to the East Side ever. I never went to Brown, never went to Thayer Street. Or if I did, you know, it wasn't to like chill or whatever, you know what I mean?
Getting kids to realize that, you know, there's this huge cultural context beside, you know, underneath this music, and that, you know, the consumptive patterns that, you know, my students kind of fall into, there's this huge context for that as well in American history.
I think like the most important thing that he's taught is like, or the most important experience I think is like showing us this culture that we really knew like absolutely nothing about, and like not only that, but like had assumptions about it that weren't true.
I think for a lot of our kids, the original draw is the music, and what Eric does is he draws them in that way, and then the culture, you know, and then he starts getting them into the broader hip-hop culture, not just the music. It's been a really organic way for a group of kids to have conversations about race and identity and all those sort of diversity-related topics.
I like the idea that a kid walks into a class in a good school and the kid's not learning about art and art history. A kid walks out of that class feeling that he's an artist. And that's what happens in our classes with Eric. Kids walk out and they are writers, and they're performers, and they're singers, and they're composers. And that's what we're trying to do here. So it fits in quite nicely. So I've been impressed and thrilled with what this program has brought to us.
I think looking in the future in college, I think my mind's going to be more open to new experiences and trying to show other people what I know and connect with other people to make music and see what they know.
Here we go, here we go. Sideshow in the building. Round and round. Sideshow. We're underground. Eric Axelman. I hope you know that. We're underground. Come on, come on, come on. Party people in the house.
This is God, incredible artist at Sideshow. Next, we have the privilege of showing part of Project 401, the premier Providence dance crew, part of Project 401 hip hop movement.